Welcome to Golf and the Good Life, your guide to golf travel across the pond. I'm DJ Jones, joined by my friend and colleague Connor Evers, and this is part two of our spotlight on golf travel in Northwest Ireland. Connor, I'm pretty excited to get going today because, let's face it, it gives you and I a good excuse to relive a couple incredible days that we had up in Northwest Ireland.
Yeah, thanks TJ for the introduction, and likewise very excited to talk about a couple of the courses we were able to go to, and like we're going to get into Rosapenna, St. Patrick's, the new golf course, Cruit Island, which was an amazing day, and the weather. We'll get into the weather in a little bit, as well as Narin and Portnoo. So and the other courses at Rosapenna as well. So looking forward to talking about it, and like you said, reliving the memories, which were quite good.
No doubt. Well, as I just mentioned, this is part two. If you haven't listened to part one, at some point go back and have a listen because what we did, there's a lot of golf in Northwest Ireland. There's enough that you can fill a trip all on its own up here. And so what we did was we chopped it into two parts. And the first part we covered the courses that are in the southern region of the area, if you will. So basically the ones surrounding the town of Ballina. So those were Carn, Enniscrone, County Sligo, and Donegal. But as Connor just mentioned, now we're making our way further north, and our first stop right out the chute was Narin and Portnoo.
Yeah, it was the first golf course that I played on our trip. No better way to enter into Ireland than the weather that we received this morning. And thankfully, it took a turn for the better, actually. But when we first got there, we didn't know if we were going to be able to play or not. And it's quite an interesting entrance. You're driving down, you're like, where are we going? And it just opens up this beautiful links golf course, and it's kind of right in front of you, which is pretty cool. So it was a great time, and did some renovations to the golf course of everything there too. So it was a special day.
If you're not expecting it and you pull up to the front gate at Narin and Portnoo and you're like, we're pulling up to the local caravan park, and you're like, what's going on? You got to give it a second. Don't, it's a holiday town. Those are rentals that a lot of folks use during the summer season. And once you get out on the course, you understand why, because an incredibly gorgeous setting just really captures the essence of Northwest Ireland. But the course has been around for almost 100 years, dates back to 1930. They almost lost it around 2015, 2016 range. The course almost closed, but like you mentioned, new owners and thankfully a new investment, if you will, came into the course, and they brought in Gil Hance and Jim Wagner. And when you walk out on this course, you think it's been there for 100 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it because the first few holes, they're very handshake start holes, nothing a little bit to them, but holes 4 through 8 and 9, you're out there. And the first 9 holes kind of brings you out to the edge of the property, and then it routes you back to the clubhouse. So there's some great par threes out there where they're relatively pretty short, from kind of the members tees, if you will. They're 130 all the way up to about 170 yards is probably the longest. But they're over huge caverns, and the holes definitely play around the topography, which is great. So we were also very fortunate to have two fantastic caddies, Marty and Kevin, some local legends, as some may say, and they were fantastic gents to be with, and showed us around the property and gave us some history. And a lot of our members that travel with us, we always push them to have caddies, because a lot of these people are either members of the clubs, or they're from the local area, and they can give you a lot of historical factors, again, from the club itself or just the general area. So Marty and Kevin were fantastic hosts while DJ and I went out and played. So it was a great experience for sure.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, great, awesome ambassadors for their club and their town. I can't remember which of the two was a fisherman, but arrived in full. Looked like he was straight off the show Deadliest Catch. The weather called for it. He was dressed appropriately, and that's a lot of their economy is fishing in the sea and so forth. And so, really cool to just kind of blend those two things together. But you're right. You get out to the far end of the links there, Number 6 was a pretty short par 3, if I remember right. Couldn't have been, but, a 9 iron, but it's across a chasm. I think mine got up in the wind, didn't have a chance, came back down in the chasm. Then you pop ahead to number 7 and short par 4 that you don't know it, but you crest the hill and you realize, "Oh, I could have driven this thing if the wind was the right direction." But what a green, I think I hit a 6 iron bump and run, just awesome, pure links golf.
Yeah, agreed. And some people may just go to the Donegal area and play golf and not venture to the courses to the west. Like we said in the first episode about Northwest Ireland, and I think this would be a great starter. To be honest with you, I mean, it's got great name recognition, but the thing that I really liked about the course was all holes weren't that long, and we played in some really tough conditions. It was quite windy, and no, you could hit driver out there, and you have to lay up with an iron and have a wedge in if you want, or you can go for the par fives and two, and the par fours weren't that long, so it really gets you into playing links golf, playing the bump and run shots around the greens. It has a topography to help the ball chase down to specific flag positions, and like I said, it was just really fun. I wish we played it in less severe weather, but hopefully we'll be able to go back sometime soon. So
Yeah, but that's half the fun, right? I mean, to
right,
see it, in all those conditions. And what's funny is that despite how tough the conditions were, we still had plenty of sunshine. We
yeah,
got out to number 6 and we talked about how it was pouring down rain the whole morning. And then we get out to the far end of the course, the heart of it, where you've got all these spectacular moments, and the sun comes out, and we've got
yep,
rainbows, and it's just thanks Ireland. That's just it's just what it does. Um, but yeah, and then you finish the round. My impression was you don't walk off feeling beaten up. You don't feel like you've gone to battle. You've had a fun, enjoyable day. And that's what so many of these, and I say it's a modern links because, Gil Hans has redone it so much that, it probably does lean to a modern side. And that's how so many of them are. The goal is just as much for you to enjoy your day as it is to test your game of golf. And you get done, and you go into this great clubhouse with floor to ceiling windows and great food and great crack, if you will, and just awesome, awesome day.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was a great day, and like you said, the weather turned for the better, which was great. And we had some lunch in the clubhouse afterwards, and we then made our way to the one and only legendary Critch Island. It's gotten a lot of recognition online. Eric Anders Lang was just there. Gosh, I think it was over summer and played, and which really cool. Made a video out of it, but the drive-in was pretty wild. A lot of the locals said the same thing, is just be a little bit careful. I think we both had the same situation, right, DJ?
Yeah, I mean, well, before we left Narin and Portnoo, Marty or Kevin, one of them said, when you turn off the main road headed into town, it's the longest 2 kilometers that you'll ever drive. And they were right. I mean, this road twists and turns. It's basically a lane and a quarter. There's no markings. It's going through farmland, then it's out to an island. And there could have been no more appropriate introduction to Critch Island than that drive. I mean, it just really sets up, you are driving to the edge of the earth. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, it was a really special drive. Definitely a one lane road going in. I still don't understand how we got there, but it was amazing. This is a 9-hole golf course, so you can play it twice if you'd like. It's I some of the best views, actually probably the best views I've ever witnessed on a golf course. The conditions of the golf course aren't, a Narin Portnoo. They're not a St. Rosapenna St. Patrick's, but the views are outstanding. And I mean, some people have said it's you put Pebble Beach and a couple other golf courses together, and that's what Critch Island is. And it's very fun, very fun. Definitely off the beaten path for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a pretty important tip when it comes to Critch Island, and that's the prospect of playing it twice. if your time allows and you can play it twice, you should play it twice because especially if you are out there without caddies and again, thinking of where we are and the location, this isn't the old course or Castle Stewart. There is not just a flood of caddies just waiting for a bag. They do have caddy availability, but you definitely need to arrange for it in advance. And there might only be one for the group or what have you. Point being, you could very well be out there, seeing it by yourself, armed with the course guide, and that's great. But you're going to stand on the tee on some holes and go, where do I hit it? There's blind tee shots, there's blind approaches. I believe it was the third hole is a short par four. It plays up and over a hill to a green that is pressed. It is in the Atlantic Ocean. And and you and I, we just got up on the tee and blasted drivers.
Yep.
And mine is hanging off the back edge of the cliff past the pin. Yours is on its way to Newfoundland.
Yep.
And
That's
and
true.
and if you and so but if you play it the second time, let's hit a 3 iron to the top of the hill.
It's a course that's not marked, entirely well, just be honest. But I think that's what adds to its character and the beauty of the place is, I mean, a lot of people will, like I said, want to play it as a transition day, maybe quote unquote have an off day, but also want to play, around a golf. And it's perfect. But I think seeing it twice does its justice, which is good. I will say too, it's a hard walk. There's a lot of topography, rolling hills, and we did only play 9 holes, and I think we got around in maybe an hour and 15, hour and 30. I know we're taking some video and some stuff, so maybe a little longer. But our 9 holes felt like it was 18 for sure, maybe a few more. So it's one of those that's it's pretty hilly, like I said, blind shots where you're hitting over a hill and then walking down and up to the green complex. It's kind of how a lot of the holes are shaped. But one definitely not to miss in that area, and glad we were able to see it. And definitely lived up to the hype of what kind of social media it gave. So yeah, it was a great afternoon after Narin and Portnoo. The perfect pairing, as we like to say.
100%. I mean, and you're right. It is a good pairing, a perfect pairing, if you will, with finish your round at Narin and Portnoo. If you're headed north to Rosapenna, or if you're headed say south to Donegal, you could hit Critch Island on the way down or up. Either way, have a 27-hole day. But if you're up at Rosapenna and you've got a day where you say, I just want to take it easy today, let's take a day off, drive out to Critch Island. It's an hour from Rosapenna. Play it once, play it twice, whatever you do, but don't miss it.
Yeah, agreed. And after we played, we played Critch. We made our way. It's kind of a long day, but made our way to Rosapenna and stayed the night there. And then the following day, we were able to play the new golf course, which is called St. Patrick's at Rosapenna. Their newer golf course. It's ranked 55 in the world, and it was an amazing day. It was quite calm. Sun was out, and we were able to take the drone out and get some amazing footage.
For sure. I mean, St. Patrick's really put on a show for us that day. But before we got started, you and I had a nice chat out by the 18th green with Rosapenna director John Casey. Here he is with some of the backstory to both the resort and St. Patrick's Links.
So St Patrick's Links is built on what was a dormant 36-hole facility. We bought it in 2012 and then worked with Tom through 2018, 2019, started construction, and we opened in June last year. So Tom built an 18-hole golf course on what was the 36-hole site. So the golf course spreads right across the 320 acres as opposed to the original intention. It's good from start to finish, as you say, but there's some really cool stretches, 4, 5, 6 in the front nine, just as you get out to the coast, and then the par 3, 5, and then I think 6 is the strongest par 5 in the golf course. It's just a great hole, great strategy. And then similarly, when you get into the back nine, 14, 15, 16, 14's just a tremendous dogleg par 4 right. A lot of people say it's their favourite hole. 15's a par 3 with just the vista and the views are just extraordinary. And then similarly 16, a downhill long 4 that it's harder to look at the golf hole between the view of the ocean on the left and the dune ridge right in front of you. It's difficult to concentrate in the golf sometimes. We always thought, with Tom's reputation and what he's been able to do on seaside sites, that he'd build a terrific golf course. But it's even actually exceeded our own expectations. I mean, the world ranking at 55 was just a dream come true for everyone involved, which is just been fantastic to shine the spotlight in Northwest Ireland and Rosapenna.
So, yeah, that kind of summarizes St. Patrick's, and there's a lot to be said about it. But the thing that I walked away from that course thinking was the scale of it. The course seems to just go for miles. And that goes back to, it was a 36 hole course, and now they've taken the best of it and made 18 holes. And you just stand there and you're like, look at everything is big, everything is bold. The bunkers, the fairways, the green complexes, the dunes. There is nothing small about it. And you just can't really fathom the size of it all until you see it firsthand.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Tom Doak's golf courses. I've been out to Bandon and played Old Mac and Pacific Dunes, played Stonewall and Philly and Forest Dunes, the loop up in Michigan. And I love Tom Doak's golf courses, and this was definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite, that he's designed. And one of the big things with Tom Doak is kind of if you will, a criticism that he gets at times, or that the greens are a little too tuned up too much. They're a little too wacky. And I didn't feel that was the case for St. Patrick's. I think they were more subtle than other ones that I've played, which is great. I think we also realized that it was just really fun. There's holes that are challenging. There's also holes that are a little bit breather, where you could hit an iron off and hit a wedge in, and they're fun. The biggest thing that I thought too was there's, I think, 4 or 5 holes on the golf course where especially just looking at it on hole number 3, it was a par 3, and there's these natural dunes that are in the area, and depending on, because the green complexes are pretty large, for example, on the hole there's a dune to the left, and if the pin position is on the left, and you're teeing off even from a par 3, it's sometimes blind. And that's what kind of makes the course really cool, is depending on where you position your tee shot, where you're hitting in from, you could have a blind shot, even if you're in the fairway, which is pretty unique. So definitely use the natural land formations of the dunes to kind of the advantage to shape the holes, which was amazing. And like I said, it was very fun, very playable. You've got great views. I mean, when you go out to 5, 6, and 7, I think, and that stretch of holes, I mean, you're right by the coast there, and it's special.
So, admittedly, I am pretty terrible at being able to remember golf holes. I walk off a course, and more often than not, 90% of it is just a big fog. I do not have Phil Mickelson's photographic memory, but if there is any photograph that remains tucked away in the Gringotts vault of my brain, it is the 14th tee at St. Patrick's Links. What a hole. You're on this elevated tee, dogleg right. You've got essentially 2 choices. You can play straight away at the ocean, or you can take on the quote tiger line, which really isn't the tiger line, because that's the line I took and only had like a wedge left into the green. But what a hole. I mean, the panorama of the coastline just kind of lays out in front of you there, and you realize this is why we came to Rosapenna and St. Patrick's Links.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite holes too. It probably wouldn't be everyone else's, but it's hole 9. It's you play a shorter par 4 the hole before, and hole 9's also a par 4. And DJ, I think you hit driver, and you hit a great tee shot, but you're up like 50 yards to the green, and the green is high up where you kind of had a blind shot, and I hit a driving iron off and was back, so I could hit a full wedge into it. And I think that's what Tom Doakes does really well, is he makes it easier holes, gives you options, but your second shot into it makes you really think back, like, oh, maybe I should have done it this way or that way. So I think some of the holes that don't, maybe aren't the most, if you will, pretty or picture well, are also really good. So St. Patrick's is was amazing. Congratulations to the whole Casey family and having that property. And it's a true testament to golf up in Northwest Ireland. And I know we did a lot of emphasis at Rosapenna on St. Patrick's, but there's 2 other golf courses there too. And I know you were able to go over and take a peek and at everything there, DJ. But kind of what was your kind of thoughts on Old Tom and Sandy Hills as well?
Yeah, 2 more great options for your time, at Rosapenna, starting with the Old Tom Morris links. As the name suggests, the local earl back in, like, 1891 invited Old Tom to come over from St. Andrews, and he laid out the course for him. The hotel arrived a couple years later, and that's what makes Rosapenna the oldest golf resort in the world. But if you are at all into golf course architecture, the Old Tom Morris links, the 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 pedigree, if you will, is as good as it comes, because in addition to Old Tom, Harry Colt and Harry Varden and James Braid and Pat Ruddy, and in recent years, Tom Doak made alterations to the course. They recently moved some holes that were formerly a kind of across the street. They've moved them onto the same side of the road and into more interesting terrain, as Sandy Hills, and really the same side of the road as St. Patrick's as well. And so the course isn't exactly as Old Tom laid it out, but many of the greens and so forth are still in play. And you mentioned earlier, a good course to kind of start your trip. This is a perfect one. A great introduction to links golf. Then right next door, you've got the Sandy Hills links, a more modern links. Pat Ruddy designed it in the early 2000s. And wow, the terrain is, not to overuse the word drama, but it is dramatic links golf at its finest. There's just no shortage of spectacular shots and views and what have you throughout the links. And you almost have to wonder why Old Tom didn't build the first course here. Maybe they didn't own the land. I'm not sure. But in any case, just 2 great options at Rosapenna. The tendency is going to be to put all the focus on St. Patrick's links. And yes, we've talked a lot about it here as well. But to come all this way and to come to Rosapenna and only hit the one stop and move on, you would be a disservice to your trip. And while we're on the topic of, other courses near Rosapenna, I would be remiss to not mention Ballyliffin. 2 fantastic links courses. They're about 90 minutes from Rosapenna. They're really only about 20 miles as the crow flies, but given, the geography of Ireland, you have to go kind of down and around a big bay. But 2 fantastic links courses. The Glashedy Links hosted the Irish Open several years ago. It's a great pairing. If you're coming from, say, Portrush over to Rosapenna, it would be a mistake to drive by Ballyliffin and not stop. But it also illustrates just how much good golf there is up here. I mean, between the 3 at Rosapenna, the 2 at Ballyliffin, Narin and Portnoo, Cruit Island, you could form a pretty fantastic trip just with those courses.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. You don't want to miss any of them. But another thing we were able to do is we were able to actually stay at Rosapenna for 2 nights. And thank you again to the Casey family for the hospitality and enjoyed our time there. It's a beautiful area. And the one thing that going into staying there is we were trying to get some more dining recommendations for our members that travel. I was surprised that we didn't have too many, and actually going there, I see why. It is a little bit more, again, a little bit more off the beaten path, and tourism and hospitality is big here. But there just isn't a lot of dining and kind of pubbing. It's definitely a place you want to spend just a few nights there. And it's great, but and in that area, there's not too much, but the one area we were able to see and one bar is a harbor bar, as the same name as the one in Portrush, but obviously a little bit different. My dad can attest it is the best Guinness he had in Ireland, so we'll put that out there. The couple fires roaring and kind of the locals are there, and it's definitely a place where you can have a great conversation. And one of the gents, when we were leaving outside, pulled us aside and asked where we were from, and what we were doing there, and just kind of wanted to know our story. Kind of like I said in episode 1, is people are just, they're working in hospitality or just a local. They just want to chat and say, hey, these guys don't look like they're from around here. Let me get their story. So, the Harbor Bar is amazing, and a place you don't want to miss. Just a very good local spot, going for a couple pints and leave. A place I think everyone needs to see for sure.
Yeah, the quintessential Irish pub. Live music most nights of the week, as well, or at least during the weekend. Again, we were there toward the later side of the season. They were going to close, Rosapenna was going to close the hotel side, just right after we left. So things were dying down. So it wasn't, in the middle of summer, things I'm sure are definitely a little different. But Harbor Bar is not to be missed. Ocean View was another restaurant that was recommended to us. Again, closed for the season, so we didn't get to see it firsthand. But you got to remember that this is small town Ireland, and the hospitality that you're going to encounter, just like you mentioned, is really the difference maker. But even though there's not a lot of options outside of the hotel, the dining room at Rosapenna was awesome for both breakfast and dinner. Of course, I think we ate there, most meals that were available. The breakfast buffet setup was amazing. In the evening, they had kind of a fixed menu that changed each night. If the Sheephaven Bay lobster is on the menu, order it. That's really what it comes down to. Just order it. But great food, and another great bar in the hotel there. So you've got options. Don't think that you've come all this way and you're going to struggle for food. There is not only food, there's great food and great hospitality. You're just not going to find a list of 30 options to pick from, and every cuisine under the sun. You're there, to play golf. You're there to enjoy the scenery, and they're going to take care of you as if you're a local, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's a cool spot, but we had a great time staying there. Great to see the hotel. It was a great experience.
One piece of the good life that shouldn't be overlooked, and it's perfect for, say, in between Narin and Portnoo and Rosapenna. If you're making the drive, if you want to see a distillery, the Crawley Distillery was absolutely incredible. I stopped in there one afternoon while you were, it might have been when you were driving across country. I can't really remember, but the days all run together. But brand new facility, had just opened in the summer of last year. The building has as compelling of a story as the whiskey. Same thing. Went inside. Everybody wanted to know where I was from. Just an awesome place. Don't miss the Crawley Distillery. And while the good life may be a little short as far as options up here, you've got plenty of choices across the board that will certainly fill your time while you're in Northwest Ireland. So,
yeah, and just to put the whole thing kind of to put it all together, the Northwest Ireland, for groups that are looking for a potential place to for more of a value place, this is it. The golf that you get up in the area by the price, it's pretty amazing. Again, if it's their second or third trip, or their sixth trip to Ireland, it's definitely a place you want to go and experience. So absolutely, definitely recommend it for everyone, and it's great getting up to that corner of Ireland.
No doubt about it. Well, our final little recommendation is to note that Connor and I have talked a little about the driving up in Northwest Ireland, and if there was ever a region where you absolutely need a driver host, this is it. And so that ties in perfect to our next episode, where we are going to cover all of the benefits of hiring a driver host, explain how it works and so forth, and kind of elaborate on why we think that basically just about everybody that goes across the pond should at least consider hiring a driver host for their trip. But in the meantime, please feel free to DM us your questions on social media, or you can shoot us an email at golf@haversham.com. But otherwise, Connor, anything else there?
No, I think we're all set there. Looking forward to the next episode and talking about the importance of having a driver host. But thanks, DJ. Look forward to talking about the next one.
Absolutely. Well, in the meantime, thank you for joining us today for part 2 of our visit to Northwest Ireland. and we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.